Okay, my name's Andrew Martin, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to change the tires, swap the tires on a Ford Focus ST. So we've got your jack, breaker bar for taking off the tires, correct size socket wrench, and this car is actually equipped with an anti-theft lug nut, so we have the tool from the manufacturer to do that. So first things first, we had to drive the car up on a board because it's a very low profile car and the jack wouldn't fit under it. So first things first, we're going to jack up the car. Okay, so now we're just jacking up the car so that we can swap the wheels. Okay, so now we're going to take the lug nuts off, which are these here. They hold the wheel onto the axle. Again, this car is equipped with an anti-theft lug nut, so I'm going to take off the 4 normal lug nuts first and then use the special tool to take this one off. We're swapping the tires because the front tires, as you can maybe see, are getting a little bit bald. This car is used to autocross and race, so we swap it with the back since this car is front wheel drive. That way you have better traction when racing. Okay, now we're going to take the lug nuts off. Got to be careful not to strip them, so you don't want to go too nuts. You want to kind of get a feel for how tight they are. Oh, so now we have all 4 of the normal stock manufacturer's lug nuts off, and we've got this tire tool, which, as you can see, this special anti-theft lug nut here has this kind of hex head rounded off pattern, and then the lug nut itself is rounded. That way you can't put this on there. There's no way to take it off with a normal socket wrench. So there's a special tool that, as you can see, is rounded, but with that fits in there. It's made to put on there so that people can't steal your wheels unless they have the exact right tool from Ford, which is going to be very unlikely. So now you just, using that, take it off like a normal lug nut. And then there's the special anti-theft lug nut. So now the wheel is free off of the axle. It's heavier than you'd expect it to be, so you need to get down like this to take it off, because this alone probably weighs about 60 pounds. And then there you go. You've got your first wheel off. Okay, so now that we're done with the front tire, we're going to move to the rear. Going to do it exactly the same way that we just did the front. Since this car has a really rigid suspension, the back wheel is already completely off the ground. We don't have to move the jack, we don't have to do anything. So we're just going to do the back wheel exactly like we did the first. Take off the rear wheel. Okay, so next we're going to take the rear wheel, roll it up to the front to swap them. Give you a little side-by-side comparison. So like I said, this car's autocrossed quite a bit, and it's pretty obvious. Okay, so you can see the tread. This is what the front was on the front wheel, because this car's front wheel drive. This is what's on the rear. As you can see from several autocross events, this tire's not too shot to have on the back, but it's pretty well shot for peak performance at an autocross. The rear tire still has perfect tread for the most part, so that's why we're doing this in the first place. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and actually swap the wheels. So this is the front, so it's going on the back. Put it out of the way for now. Okay. So in here is a torque wrench. And what this torque wrench does is applies a certain amount of foot-pounds of torque onto your engine components or other components of the car. Most commonly, engine components are torqued, but lug nuts are also torqued to a certain foot-pounds. That way your wheels don't fall off on you while you're going down the road, but you don't tighten it too hard to strip the lug nuts. So for this particular vehicle, for the ST, it's 100 foot-pounds of torque for each lug nut. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and sit the wheel up on the car. So now what you want to do to get the wheel to kind of hold itself is just go ahead and hand tighten, or at least start, all 5 lug nuts. Is when you're tightening them and torquing them, do not just torque the first one to what you're supposed to torque it to. It puts unwanted pressure on the lug nut and on the wheel itself. Yeah, you want to make sure to not tighten them all the way. Okay, so now that we've got them all kind of loosely tightened on there, you see the wheel's pretty much stable. Another thing that you want to make sure you're doing is when you tighten a lug nut onto a wheel all the way and torque it, which is what I'm going to do now. After you've torqued one, you want to kind of work across from each other. You don't want to torque them like this, because again, that'll kind of pinch the wheel and put unwanted pressure on it. So you want to torque kind of in an across pattern when you're doing it. So you're going to start on this one and actually tighten it to torque specs. So when you hear the torque wrench make that click like that, that loud noise, that's telling you that you're done. So now we've completely finished. We'll unhalf the car, everything's torqued, got the wheels changed. This will perform a lot better at the next autocross. We've only done half the car, obviously, so you gotta remember to go do the other half. In all reality though, this job shouldn't take you much more than a half hour to an hour.